Okay, great. Welcome to this How to Write Award-Winning Entries workshop that's being conducted by the Staffordshire Chambers, really primarily for their business awards for 2021. Hopefully, you will gain something from this presentation, understanding exactly what they're looking for, the judges are looking for, by looking at some good and bad examples over the last few years that the Chamber has been running these awards. Normally, we would do this face-to-face. Obviously, in these times, we're not able to. So in a normal environment, when we have a workshop, we would run it and we'd get introductions from everybody, try to understand why they were there and the key concepts. And then we start looking at various elements. So today I'm just going to run through some of those elements, the concept of content and delivery, looking at your individual business and trying to identify the storyline and the key business successes that really dictate why you're entering the awards and which categories. I think it's also important to look at the return on investment for entering the awards, the amount of time that you spend on it versus what you expect to get out of it. We're then going to have a look at the actual form itself, the Staffordshire Business Awards entry form, look at the various categories and which ones are objective and which ones are a bit more subjective. And then we'll plough through some good and bad examples from previous awards. Obviously, the questions in the next stages we can't really do in this forum, but when we run face-to-face ones again or real-time ones, we will be able to do that. As I said at the very start, we normally do this face-to-face, and so there's some questions that I would normally ask. Are you already entering the awards? Are you definitely going to enter? Are you considering an entry? And have you entered before and perhaps not got to the stage, i.e. a finalist or actually a winner, and hence wanted some tips as to how you could possibly improve your entry going forward. So hopefully you fit into one of those categories, and obviously if we were doing this face-to-face, we would discuss that and share what exactly you were doing and the reasons for it. I think in my experience, and I've been director of the East Staffordshire and South Derbyshire Business Awards for 11 years now, and also been involved with the Staffordshire Chambers Business Awards for 5 or 6 years. So I've seen thousands, literally thousands of entry forms. And I've spoken to businesses and organisations who, have considered entering and have actually entered. And I think one of the things that I've learned over this last decade or so is a lot of people set out to enter an award, be it these awards or be it one that's bespoke to their specific sector or some other one, without really thinking, why am I entering? What am I doing it for? It almost becomes an objective for the year. So they say, oh, well, let's enter some awards this year and see how we do, and use it as PR and internal comms as well. And often those ones that are driven by the desire to win an award or even just enter an award are not the most successful ones. I want to do it a different way today. I really want to perhaps look at your business performance first of all, and let that guide whether you even enter the awards and which categories, rather than do it the other way around. Often we'll hear from CEOs or finance directors or board members who say, or even owner managed businesses say, oh, let's win Small Business of the Year, or let's enter the Manufacturer of the Year, or some category like that, without even thinking about why they're doing it. So we're going to do it the other way around. We're actually going to look at the business and see which ones warrant entry, and which categories and which of those key business successes we can actually shout about. And that will drive us towards which categories I'm going to enter, and possibly more importantly, which ones I'm not going to enter. We see that where businesses enter 4 or 5, just think, well, if I've entered one, I might as well enter the others. And actually that can work against you. And I'll explain a little bit more about that as we go forwards. I want to talk about content and delivery, and I'm going to use the analogy of perhaps comedy, which is somewhat ironic, I guess. But comedians primarily do 2 things. Firstly, they write content, and then they look at how they deliver that content in the funniest way. the way that's going to get the most laughs, that's going to engage with the audience, connect with the audience, and ultimately, as I said, make them laugh. And it's really important we do the same thing with an awards. We identify the content, what content we're going to put in, what the justifiable reasons for us entering the awards are. And then secondly, we look at how we're going to deliver that, what those key messages that we have identified. Both are equally as important. Obviously, you can't deliver without the content, but the delivery itself can be the difference that gets you shortlisted as a finalist. And the first phase of this awards is actually paper-based or electronic, digital, however we want to say it. So you don't get a chance to actually sell the business other than in writing. So the judges will make that initial decision based on what you put on paper. They don't get to see your business. They don't get to meet you. They don't get to feel your enthusiasm, your passion, or see your premises if that is something you want them to. So it has to be done on paper. So, you've got a very narrow window and a very small channel, one channel, if you like, to be able to sell your message. And so the first objective is clearly to get yourself shortlisted as a finalist. And that's what we're going to focus on today. So it's about identifying the content and then finding the best way to deliver that through the awards form medium that will, make the judges initially pay attention, hook them in, and sell them on your story that will get you through that first stage. We can do this, I guess, because this is being recorded. You can pause this, so this actually works quite well. This probably works better than doing it in real time. But I want you just to spend 5 minutes now outlining your company performance and your successes over the past couple of years. And this is the starting point. This is not only the starting point for your decision whether you're going to enter the awards or not, but actually it's a good opportunity to take stock, because some of the things that we will digest from these 5 minutes we can use for other comms processes, be they internal or external. And just to give you some steering elements through that, I want to just list over some components that we can look at, and perhaps you can jot down separately, on paper or in a word processing piece of software. Some of these key elements, have a look at them. Not all of them will apply to you or be success stories for you, and I'll come on to that in a minute. But if we can find 2 or 3 nuggets in this list here, then we can use those for our key business successes that we can take forward to the awards itself. So obviously, business turnover is a key one. It's often one that people focus on. I think over the last 18 months of COVID, it's actually changed, and we can't really use that as a key differentiator, certainly in certain sectors. The judges will be aware of that. They've already discussed that. And so business turnover is not as critical, certainly for this year, as perhaps it might have been for other years. I think financial performance follows on from that. Profit and loss margins, we realise there's going to be some anomalies, some changes over the last 18 months through the pandemic. Not all of those are positive, but it's about how the other ones have led into that. And even the other ones that we'll go through are helping support the building up of the financial performance going forward. Staffing levels may be important as well. Again, we may have seen some reduction in those. Furloughs obviously helped a lot of businesses, but there have been some needs to rebalance in certain business sectors. So that may not be a positive one for you, but again, if it's allowed you to improve your financial performance and put you in a position whereby you'll be fit for purpose going forwards and then can regrow, there's nothing wrong with including that. Growth and expansion. So the COVID pandemic has allowed a lot of businesses to look at new markets, new regions, new channels. Have you switched to a larger component digitally, and have from that, if we go down the new products, new services, or new revenue lines that you've been able to exploit as opportunities for your business. Sometimes we've seen some sales and marketing successes as well by changing the strategy, changing the way you market a product, and changing the way you actually sell it as well. I know this is an opportunity as well for businesses to look at acquisitions and mergers, or infrastructure and estates. So certainly some of the businesses that we've spoken to have taken this opportunity to rebuild their infrastructure, take on some investment, and look at their estates and their infrastructure, so that as we do come out of the pandemic, they're in a really good position. All right, they may have borrowed some money and taken out one of the business loans, but it's put them in a really good position. Have you had recognition within your sector, your region, your customers? Has it been a good time to build up that customer database, to look at some customer feedback, and get that recognition within your sector that perhaps stands you out within that sector? Also, customer client retention. What have you done in these last 18 months to 2 years to retain customers, improve the service, and again gain recognition from them? But we've discussed the ways of doing business before. How have you looked at that? How have you used these last couple of years to change the way you do business? Perhaps even look at the way you do it in terms of some of the CSR or environmental impacts that not only support those objectives of the business, but also deliver cost savings. And then, community engagement and charity support. So that's not all of them by a long shot, but I think certainly if you go through those with your business and look at each of those, and find 2 or 3, even 4 or 5 nuggets in there, you think, you know what, we've done really well there. This is what we've done over the last 2 years to 18 months that actually we're really proud of. We want to use those as our key business successes, if you like, that we can build our awards entry around. I think the other thing that's worth touching on, and we'll touch on it as we go forward, is the person that's listening to this workshop might not be the right person to actually write the awards application itself. And you might not have all of the information that we've looked at here. All of those components might require you to go on a little bit of a tour, if you like, around the business, and get that relevant information. If you're from sales or you're from marketing and you've decided to write this award, then you might have to go and talk to the finance person, or you might have to go and talk to the estates person or the customer service person if the business is big enough. If it's not, and it's a smaller business, then make sure you've got input from all of the people in the business that can perhaps say, hey, why don't we put this in here? Why don't we include that? How important is this success versus the others? And I'll come on to how we order that in a minute. But it's really important, as the business gets, the more larger the business is, the more input we have from other departments and other divisions within the business, so that the story is complete, if you like, and you're not missing anything that perhaps may enhance your own key performance indicators. So how have you structured your storyline? So we've got our key business successes, if you like. We've identified those. We might have 2, 3, 4. We might just have one, but it was so impressive that we wanted to go for it. Then we look at those and say, based on our key business successes, based on the key parameters that we've got within there, the key components of each key business success, which award is most suitable for us to do that? And that will probably be different from the one you first thought of when you looked at the awards. So let the key business successes drive which categories you go in. It might not be ideal. You might want to win, business of the year or medium business of the year, and actually you don't think you qualify for that, but you might qualify for something else. So make sure you really look at those key business successes and the criteria for each of the categories. How are we going to put these into your form? And we're going to cover the form in a little bit, and we'll see some examples where companies have just put pages and pages of prose. Now, if we think about this, myself as a judge, I will see when we sit around and evaluate these, and we do give them all due care and attention, review them all. But, if you're looking at 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 application forms for a category, then you want something that's going to jump out the page at you. And if you have to read prose after prose after prose and have to identify and decipher the key business successes, it can put a lot of strain on you as a judge, and it might not be as apparent. So, the best ones that we will see are the ones where the key business successes jump out the page at you. And the best way of doing that is by bullet points. So we don't mind an intro paragraph or an intro sentence or two, but if we can get those key business successes right up there at the start. Here's why we're entering. Here's what we believe is great about it. And then you can expand that and you hook the judges in. So they immediately see the numbers, the stats, the data, the rationale for each of those key business successes. And then you can expand on those further down the actual form itself, as and when it's needed. But we want to get those key messages across really early on in the story, and we'll show you how you can do that. How many of those are you putting in? So it really, and what order are we putting them? Are we putting them chronologically? Are we randomly putting them in there? Are we putting them in order of importance, or in order of you think the biggest achievement is? It's really important that we do that. And again, we'll have a look at some examples. Are all of them bona fide or incredible, or are we just trying to pad it? So it's really important that you don't put a really good one up there and then put one that actually you think, well, hold on, do they really know what they're doing here, or are they just putting everything down? So if you feel it's just padding, don't put it in there. Let's stick to the key ones that we think. It detracts from the key points if we put the padding in there. Obviously, if we're looking at key business successes, we're looking at things that have happened in the past. They may not have reached completion. They will have hopefully have reached some degree of fruition, but try to keep them to things that are measurable and definable, rather than something that hasn't started yet, but you think it will happen and you think it will be delivered, because it's quite hard for the judging panel to actually evaluate those if they haven't even started yet. So they don't have to have completely finished, but as long as we can be some way down the journey of that key business success, then we have something to measure against, and give you the credit that it warrants. Going back to the point I made earlier, do you have all the necessary and relevant information? So have you gone to all the other people that are connected with that key business success to garnish all the data to help you with your submission on the actual application form itself? So it's really important you do that, rather than think, well, I think it was about this. Actually go and ask that question of the relevant person within your organization or your business. Make sure you have all the facts. They may add something that you'd forgotten about, and that will just enhance it. Are you the best person to formulate the key business successes? I think it's a good question, that, and are you the best person to actually complete the entry form? Often we see that a person that wants to enter the awards and believes they have the key business successes might not be the right person to write the actual award form itself. So again, have a think, talk to your marketing people, your chief exec, say, look, here's where I think we've got something that's worth entering. Who do you think will be the best person to actually complete the form itself? And I think the other thing is, certainly in the one that we run here in East Staffordshire and South Derbyshire, and again in the Staffordshire one, there's a couple of categories for individuals. And that's a great way to recognise individuals in your organisation. I know from speaking in the past to companies, they can be reluctant to do this because they don't want to, identify somebody and appear to be discriminating against somebody else. But where you can do so, especially the categories we've got, the Young Employee or Apprentice of the Year here in Burton and Rising Star, then it does give you an opportunity, if somebody's really contributed to the business and it's not going to detract from other people's performances, that you can actually use that as well to give them some recognition they deserve to help the business going forward. Okay, so we've focused on the content in the first instance. It's important to get those key business successes, as I've said, onto paper, and I mean digitally, into so we get a lot of people that immediately crack off with the application form online without having the data, the information, and doing this piece of work before. So all of the work that we've discussed so far should be done prior to you even opening the application form online, because we want to get it in the right format, so it's merely just a case of copying and pasting. If we've said it, don't pad. If we've only got 2, then just stick to 2. If we've got more, great, but don't get to the point where it's really gradational, so that your lower ones are not really of any value to the application form. So we keep it nice and crisp. So we revisit those again before we even start the application form. Happy with what we've got, happy we've got all the supporting information, happy with the order we're going to do them, happy with the categories we're going to enter, and happy with the starting point, the key bullet points for each of those, and the summary line that's really going to emphasize the facts, no waffle of why we're entering that. I think the other thing that's really, when we do this exercise, it might take you, half a day, a couple of hours, something to really do this exercise. We should realize that as well as using it to enter the awards, if we've made that decision that we will enter the awards, we can use this data, these key business successes, for a wide range of other initiatives. So communications internally, staff engagement, motivation, internal advertising, internal awards. External communication, so PR, marketing, advertising again. If these are really great things we've done, you don't mind them being in the public domain, then we can use them for our communication strategy. We can also use them for recruitment strategy. At the moment, I know there's a lot of, quite a lot of vacancies out there. So in certain sectors, it's quite hard to recruit people. So we can use these facts to entice people in, to say, look, we're a good company to work for. Here's what we've done over the last couple of years. Here's what we're proud of. And here's, why we think you should come and work for us. And then also, if we're entering these awards, the Staffordshire Chambers Awards, then can we use these key business successes for any other awards? The Staffordshire ones are regional, obviously, but we may look at sector-specific ones within your specific sector, or other more generic ones that are related to maybe some of charity work, the CSR work, some initial products, product development, that sort of thing. So again, we're doing it the other way around. Rather than deciding to enter an awards, we've found our key business successes, and now we're going to use that to decide which awards we want to enter and which specific categories we want to enter within each of those awards. So just to recap on that, most people decide to enter the awards before reviewing their key business successes, and it's almost a case of going in there saying, I'm going to win this, or I want to win this, or I want to be a finalist in this, and let's find the data that will allow us to do it. And those things really stand out when we look at award entry forms. And it's very often that we'll read an award entry form and go, well, why have they applied for this category? Surely they should have applied for this category. And we may even call them and say, look, would you like to enter this category? We think it's probably a better one for you. But it doesn't install a great deal of confidence in the judges. And we do see quite a lot of this, the fitting of a square peg into a round hole. So we're going to do it the other way around. The key business successes will say, should I enter this particular award, and should I enter this particular category? So, and also the return on investment, which I'll come back to in a minute. I want to look at the Staffordshire Business Awards now. So hopefully, if you're still with us on this workshop, you've found some key business successes. Think, actually, I do want to enter the Staffordshire Chambers Business Awards for 2021. I'm now going to do my research into the awards, have a look at it in more detail, have a look at the application form, check that everything's right. I'm happy with the overview of it. Has it got the right reach for me? Is it a credible awards process, an awards event? There's a lot of these out there now. And is this one credible for you? Obviously, we believe it is. The Staffordshire Chambers one has gone from strength to strength over the last 5 or 6 years that it's been running. And it's run, obviously, by a Chamber of Commerce. So it's got that stamp of authority in there. Are the categories right for you? So now we can start looking at the specific categories and the form itself. Does that go through, read through the form, all the stages of the form before you start cutting and pasting? Because we see a lot of entries where they just copy everything, paste it into the first section and say, right, we'll let the judges decipher which bit's relevant. We're just going to put everything in there and away you go. So this is really where you've done the initial work, however long that's taken. So let's really make sure we deliver that content now in the right way. And finally, the return on investment, which I mentioned before. And it doesn't cost anything to enter the awards, but it does cost your time. So you may have already spent a couple of hours, half a day, you've built on that. So as you think, actually, I've got something here, I've got some nuggets here, I want to build on that, I want to find all the information, I want to pull all that data together that I want to use to enter. And, again, that's going to take more time. So how much of your time is it going to take? What's the likelihood, do you think, of becoming a finalist? And then it becomes engaging with the judges. If you are a finalist, spending time showing them around your business when they come to see you, and then the actual cost of attending the awards evening. So overall, we've got to look at a return on investment for us actually doing this. And if you're not going to do it properly, we're not going to do it in the way that we're defining here, then really there isn't a lot of point in doing it. If you've spent a couple of hours filling an online form in without doing your background research, it's got very little chance of succeeding as a finalist and certainly as a winner, and you've wasted your time really doing it. So if we do it properly, not only can we enter the awards, we can use that data for other forms of communication that we touched on, and it really is a good return on investment of your time. Some of the awards evenings, certainly not the Staffordshire Chambers one or the one we run in East Staffordshire and South Derbyshire, but it can be quite expensive to enter them as well in terms of attending the awards evening, big ticket prices. So make sure you bear that in mind. As I said, the ones that we run are not for profit. They're run by the Chambers of Commerce, and hence they have got the credibility as well as the return on investment. I guess the first question I'm going to ask is, are you still with us? Then, if we've got to this point, you are. If you're not, I'll say goodbye now and hopefully see you in a future date. We want to use the key business successes now as a guideline to which categories we're going to be entering. Be really realistic. Many, and as I mentioned before, many businesses enter more than one category in the hope that it will convince the judges to select them for at least one. So I've seen entries where they've literally just put the same data in, 6 or 7 different categories and said, well, if we spread it out across there, then they're bound to pick us for one as a finalist. And it doesn't actually work like that. Again, we want quality, not quantity. So all your key business successes should be used as the template, if you like, for making the key decisions. As we go through the awards, which we will do in a minute, the awards entry form, the question will come up of images, charts, graphs, attachments. Unless this is really, really critical and it's easy for the judges to understand, then don't put it in there. The reason I'm saying that is we've seen entry forms where there's everything. There's charts, graphs, attachments, and acronyms for specific sectors that the judging panel do not have the time or the experience to really interpret. Especially if it's specific for your sector, then it takes quite a lot of explaining to understand that it's a key business success. So stick to the key data. It can clearly be used as an actual or a percentage increase, if you like, or a trend, and that can be put into that bullet point. If you're having to reinforce it with lots of charts and graphs and stuff, then it can be really distracting for the judges to get through. We want to get through that first phase, and we can do that through the key bullet points. And then once we get the judges to come and visit you, you can spend a bit of time with them and show them some of this other media, if you like. So unless it's really critical, if it's really critical, it's a new product or it's a widget or it's something manufacturing process that will really benefit from having a photograph or an image or a diagram or something like that in there that will really get that message across, you can do it. But don't fill it up with pages and pages of supporting media. Remember, it's quality, again, not quantity. If you look at the entry form itself, it's all online now. Separate entries, more than one category. And we're going to go through each of the sections. So there are 2 basic business information sections, a financial information section, a specific information section, judging, and then terms and conditions. So those are the 5 key areas that we're going to have to address. Some of them are very subjective and some of them very objective, just data entry. So you'll create your own profile, if you like. So this is just a screen dump from the entry form. The first 2 business information, you see I've just jumped straight to the financial information here. The business information is pretty much very objective data entry about your business. So I'm not going to go through all of that. It's pretty straightforward, but don't, just keep to what they ask you. Don't start putting all your USPs, your USBs in there. And all the rationale. This comes under financial and specific and judging, which we'll cover now. So we've done the objective. Now we come on to some of the more subjective, if you like. So this is quite an interesting one. So previously, pre-COVID, then, this was an important aspect of it, the overall. So if we look at the first one, overall trend in sales, turnover, profit developments, and key business events. So, normally these would be healthy, if you like. Obviously, it's something the judges are going to have to be very cognizant of. Don't put in anything that's hideously negative. You don't want to start off. We want to be positive about this. But if things have changed because of pandemic and there's a justifiable reason for that, and we can explain that, then note that down, and what you're doing to manage through the pandemic and what's happened as we come out the other side. You can see the turnover in there as well. They're all optional. So we've got 2019, 2020, and then a forecast for 2021. They're all optional in there. Again, don't be worried if there is a difference, a negative or a downturn, if you like, from 2019 to 2020. The judges are going to see this. They're going to see the sector. And it's more about how you've managed the pandemic as a business or an organization, how you've rebuilt, and how you're fit now for business as we come out of it. So, if it does go down, then there is a reason for it, and we can explain that as we go on. So the judges won't make the decision purely based on the financial information, is what I'm trying to say. They never have done, and they never will do, even more so in these awards for this year. When we come on to specific information, then some of these are word protected in terms of the number of words you can enter. So again, here we go. Please provide a brief description of your business, the products, services, its customers, and the market operates in. So again, this is really quite a simple little, again, we can use it in bullet points of what you actually do, what your sector is, and how it operates. It really just gives bullet points. Again, we're not looking for, huge amounts of prose. It's key that we just have facts there, if you like. It really helps the judges understand that sector if they don't already. And then again, the same maximum 200 words for the objective of your business over the next 3 years, and how will these be achieved. So it's a chance now for us to put some more subjective stuff about our key business successes in here. But that actually comes on in the judging part as well. So this is more specific information that will help the judges understand a bit more about your business, what you've done, the successes you've had, why you're entering these awards, and how you're looking to build on that over the next few years. But this is a really interesting part of the judging. What other information is relevant in support of your application for this specific award? Please list any supporting material the judges might like to reference or see at a later date. So again, this is emphasizing, let's keep it really simple right off the top. There's no word limit on these at all. So let's start with bullet points of exactly why you're entering these awards, the key business successes that are the rationale for you wanting to enter these awards, believing that you merit consideration from the judging panel. And again, don't submit additional data at this stage. We can list it, but other stuff is available. But let's really try and focus on how am I going to hook the judges in. They want to see data. They'll have a lot of application forms. They want to see data and clearly defined successes that hook them in and allow them to read more. Again, then we go on to some more subjective stuff. If you're selected as a finalist, please list the name of the person you'd like to contact to arrange it. So this is where we need to think a little bit about, they're going to come and see you, visit your site or your offices or wherever you choose to take them, and who will be the best person to deliver that. So again, those two really there, the specific information and the judging information, give you the chance to now tell your story again in a very easy to read, easily distinguishable for the judges way. And it isn't just something that judges feel they've got to try and pluck the relevant information out, try and identify it and pluck it out. It should jump out. So we're going to look at some examples now, both good and bad. The bad ones, I've redacted, if you like, the company or the individual. The good ones, some of them are certainly left in there, and they're fine. Let's have a look at some common mistakes first of all. Specific information. this is where delivery of content is so important. So this is one of the old forms. I think it's one of our forms from Burton. So this is actually a screen dump from the application form. So we've literally had sector and main business activities, training and welfare to work, apprenticeship, social support services, job centre plus, private sector led services. Background details of the business was left blank. So the judges really didn't have they didn't have an understanding, a very clear objective understanding. And B, subjectively, they were thinking, well, you know, they haven't spent much time on this. They're obviously not very keen on it, or they're just doing it as a, you know, just doing it as a throwaway piece of work. How long has the business been trading? 7 years. How many employees does it have? No idea. Didn't bother filling that part in. So you can see how the judges, if they see something like that, immediately it's a negative impression, and it reflects badly, and it's a waste of your time doing it. If you're not going to do it properly, you know, really you should consider whether you're even doing it at all. Again, don't paste everything into the first subsection and then just repeat it in the next section. So don't take what you've got in your document and just chuck it in every single section and say, well, it's in there, you find it, judges. You know, think about it, think about the quality, think about what you're trying to get across, read each section of what they're asking you for, what the form section is asking you for, and really tailor that so it tells a story going forward. It shows that you've read the process, you understand the process, and you're really taking the judges, you've hooked them in, you're taking them on a journey. Again, this is where we sometimes think that people don't really understand the awards process. So if it's negative, then, you know, don't really mention it. So how does the business manage and develop its staff? As staff numbers are small, at present, no formal structure is in place. Well, I don't care how small a business is and how few there is, you should have a formal structure in there. Monthly catch-up meetings are attended by full-time staff and a representative of the virtual PA company. Well, I wouldn't say that's anything radical. That's probably the normal for most businesses. I'd be surprised if there wasn't many businesses that didn't have catch-up meetings, be it monthly, fortnightly, daily even. So again, these things are not business successes. They're nothing innovative. And in many places, they're actually negative. Having no formal structure in place doesn't exactly fill the judges with confidence, regardless of what category they're entering. So think really carefully. Often, if you've got this on a Word document, give it to somebody else in another part of the business to read and say, do you believe all of these are positive key business successes for my entry? Yeah, grammar and spelling are important. Again, if you spent all that time going over it and identifying it, please, please, please just make sure the grammar is correct, because these mistakes jump out and it just gives the judges another reason to doubt, you know, the validity of what you're entering the awards. So here's one that we had that jumped tenses for some reason. So 3.2. It highlights threading expert with more than 20 years experience in shaping and trimming eyebrows who loves her work. So we're talking about it in the third person. And then the very next paragraph, threading is an art and the beauty of eyebrows is my passion. It jumps to first person. So you know, you're thinking, well, hold on a minute. Has this person written, you know, has it been written by one person, or have they just, do they not understand tenses? So it gives the judges a reason to doubt, and we don't want to do that. Professionalism is very important. Check for typos. So if we look at this one, highlight of the business is the team we have and the professionalism that has been shown by all. So, you know, spelled professionalism wrong. And then we've got uppercase mid sentences. So easy to approach, uppercase easy, encourages people. It's almost as though they've taken it from another document. Maybe it's a marketing document, maybe it's a brochure, maybe it's a report they've done for a board member or something like that, and just copied and paste. And, you know, these things stand out a mile for the judges. You know, you see the good ones, you understand that they've done this specifically for these awards, and they've taken the time to make sure it's delivered in the correct way. Okay, consistency. of delivery of message as well is really important. So here we have one in one section, uninspiring. So this is the same entry, section 3.1, and then straight up to section 3.2. The last 18 months have been one of consolidation of what was achieved in the first 2 years. Careful planning, investment in plant. As 90% of businesses fail within 3 years, there has been a strong desire to get from being a good 2-year-old business to a healthy 3-year-old one. Yeah, I don't think that's necessary. Again, it's quite a negative. I understand they're trying to stay healthy. We would expect that. Any business wants to do that. And, you know, it's not something that is going to jump out as a positive. And then we go straight into the next section, which is really inspiring. So you've gone from actually, this is a bit of a cautious business. Why are they even entering? They've not really done much. They just want to stay as successful through 3 years. And then suddenly you get onto the next section. The highlight for the businesses have been, wow, they've won that, they've won this, they've done this, you know, so suddenly, you know, it's really positive. But even within that positivity, if we look at the bottom one, the deck box FR, this could have been worded in a slight delivered. This section could have been delivered in a better way. So the deck box FR passing 2 fire tests. Having been in development for 2 years, it was a very exciting moment when the range finally passed a very difficult test. Each test cost more than 6,000, so a fail would have been a major disappointment. Fortunately, the test was passed with flying colours. So there's almost an air of expectation of failure there. So, oh God, thank God we passed that. It should have been. You don't need to put. Fortunately, the test was passed. You can just say the test, you know, was passed with, you know, flying colours. You don't need to put so a fail. We've got a negative perspective in there. So a fail would have been a disappointment. Fortunately. So think about the way you're wording that to create the positivity, and don't create any doubt or negativity in there as well. Okay, so let's have a look at some previous winners now, and how they've structured it, and how this really stands out to the judges versus some of the other ones we've looked at in the past. So we're on to listers. I'm pretty sure this is Staffordshire Business Awards. So we've got a very simple overview. It's primarily a B2B operation, manufacturing, supplying glazing related construction materials. Bang. So there's that intro sentence. Here's what we do. Here's our sector, and here's some facts over our performance over the last 3 years. So you can see the turnover's increased, the profits increased, employees have increased. Now, as we mentioned earlier on, you know, this focuses on figures. But clearly your key business successes, especially if the pandemic has played a role on your turnover, your profit, your employees, then it can be any other aspect. So, you know, the content here is specific to listers, but the delivery mechanism is what I'm trying to get across to you. So consistent increase in turnover, profitability, creation of new local jobs. So then you've got the judges hooked in, and they will suddenly want to read more. Again, the subsequent part is not complete prose, but it's broken down into very short 1 and 2 sentence paragraphs that clearly explain and expand on some of the key business successes listed above. If we flip over to 3.1, again, we see a really quick summary that really hooks the judges in, and then we go straight on to the facts, this time broken down by each year. So 2014 net profit, more than doubled, turnover, fleet size increasing, what happened in 2015. So you can see there that there's 9 key bullet points across the 2 years that are just literally allow the judges to go, great, got that, facts and figures, understand it, really good, everything's really good. Growth is predicted to follow a similarly upward trend. So while it's forecasting the future, there is data from the past to back it up. And it hooks the judges in and then sets the stall out for the company, for the judges to go, right, let's all have a look at this in a little more detail. I'm already hooked in. Here's another one, ATP. So what highlights the business individuals that define suitability for each of the categories? So this is more of the subjective approach. It's not all financial driven. And we've got a subheading of recent accolades by ATP. Bullet points again. So what have we got there? We've got 5 clear bullet points We've even put a quote in, but it's a relevant quote that I think adds value to that. You know, we've had a visit from the Chancellor of the Exchequers, shortlisted for the Queen's Award. So clearly it shows that, you know, they've understood what the business is delivering, it's entered other awards, and it's been well received, which is one of the reasons it's entering these regional awards. And again, then we go on to what differentiates the business and individuals. So again, we've got some key, simple sentences and bullet points that clearly allows the judges that probably don't have a detailed understanding of this sector, or if they do have an understanding of the sector, perhaps not specific this area of the sector, to clearly see the standout parts as ATP see them and make a clear judgment on that as to whether they should be carried forward as a finalist. Suffice to say that all of these ones I'm showing you now were. Okay, so here's a couple of other ones. So this is Rizal on the left, 3.2. Quite a lengthy prose part, and I wanted to put this. I put this in there for a reason. If you were judging this, if you were a judge and you'd seen, you know, quite a few entries, and this one jumped out in front of you, which part of that section on the left, so 3.2, would you be drawn to first of all? So my eyes are drawn immediately to the bullet points at the bottom, rather than the prose paragraph at the top. So if I was reading that, I would immediately, my eyes are immediately drawn to the bullet points, and I would read those first. So this is an example of where the benefit of a bullet point approach with an intro sentence, I think, outweighs the prose part in there, especially as the prose is really quite lengthy, and doesn't really give me any facts and figures just by looking through it. The bullet points further down have got some clear facts and figures in there that I can quite easily digest. And then if we go and look at another example, compare that with the one on the right, we can clearly see, you know, some of the bullet points in a font size, and also the use of bold to sort of highlight the reader's eye to the parts it wants to jump out. So, you know, hopefully we can see, there's one more here. So we move on to the final one, I think. This is one from the East Staffordshire and South Derbyshire Business Awards, a company called Brightside Vet. So they're quite a small local veterinary surgery, by no means a regional chain. I think they've grown now, but at the time I think they only had 1 or 2 sites, certainly not national, but, you know, the owners, who were vets themselves, really were really proud of the way they were developing in a fairly niche sector, and decided to enter the awards and laid out a brilliant entry form that was very easy for the judges to read, compare against the others, and also evaluate against the others as well from other sectors. So I think this was a customer service award. You know, you've got a veterinary surgery against a manufacturer, or various sectors. So it's very hard for customer service award to clearly distinguish one sector from another. So it's relative to that sector, first of all, how far above and beyond what is expected of your sector. And they've delivered this really well. So if we look at the recognition there, bang, simple little, well, they're Roman numeral points there, but it's the same as bullet points, not only for the recognition, but for their staff on the right-hand side, and then their financial performance. Again, using bold to really draw out some of the key elements that will allow the judges to go, wow, that's really impressive. No waffle in there, no padding, straight facts and figures. Okay, so we've basically been through that. If we look at that again, we've looked at the basic concept of content and delivery, how we identify the content from your business storyline, the key business successes. Now then we look at specifically the Staffordshire Business Awards and how we're going to deliver that content in a way that is going to impress the judges, hook them in, and allow you to take them on that journey that you believe warrants them being considered as a finalist. Once you get to the finalist stage, then you can wax lyrical and showcase your product face to face in a perhaps more enticing environment than just a business entry awards. And then obviously we've looked at some good and bad examples that address not only the content, but also the delivery of content on an awards entry form. We normally do questions and next stages if we were doing this workshop face-to-face or live, if you like, virtually. We can't do that now. Hopefully it's been of use to you. We are doing some more of these, which you can find on the Chamber events website. But if not, then hopefully this has given you a pointer and at least given you some structure as to how you can enter the Staffordshire Chambers Business Awards for 2021. If you do enter, I wish you all the very best of luck. Thank you.